Once again, I'm going to send around a sign-in sheet. Please make sure it gets up and down all three rows of these. Couple of particular things I noticed over the weekend. Thank you all for making it, by the way, through this lovely weather we're having. Thursday, your discussion forum post should be up. So far, only 8 of you have done that. Ideally, by the end of Tuesday next, you will need to fill out both these assignments here. And that means this one says requires lockdown browser respondus monitor. Please make sure you take the practice quiz. So far, only 10 of you have done that. Please, you have until Thursday to do both of these. Please take care of them. An announcement was made. We have tutors for this course. There is a link to Penji, the app for scheduling, in that announcement. If you've got particular people you want to see, I don't know who the tutors are for this course yet, but I can see the availability for their drop-ins. I can see my availability as office hours on our Penji website. You just have to select this course. Okay. Spent a lot of time talking about how to do certain things in Excel. So what work are we actually going to do with these? Well, the 2 assignments that are listed on the Canvas page, both are listed as quizzes, but they really, one is a project. Let's take a look at these 2 items for a moment. This one that's labeled assignment 1.2, the one that requires lockdown browser, is based on the lectures. See, it says right there, multiple choice quiz based on the lectures. What lectures? The things I've been talking about, the lecture notes that are posted to Dr. Burns's website. I would include in this, I think it is beneficial, the first chapter of our textbook, which goes through the data business cycle in a little more detail and talks about the way in which we do these things is worthwhile. Remember, the book is on Canvas. You get to it with the course materials button over there in the left margin. It's a digital copy for you right there. That's this one. But this one, assignment 1.1, while it's also labeled as a quiz, really it's a project. There's a data file. I want you to download this data file. I want you to do stuff with it. But this is the general process. There's a bunch of questions in here. It's going to tell you what to do. And then you go in and take the quiz and answer those questions, which are the quiz questions. So you'll have all of the things here. But in that case, let's talk about what I think are beneficial ways to do these sorts of things. Please make sure in any project that you understand the problem. What exactly are the questions you want answered? If in this case, I'm giving you the question, that's great. But further along, as you work through whatever business position you're going to be in, you're going to be the one asking the questions, or your team, your boss will say, I need this sort of idea. What are we doing with? Make sure you have the questions. And some questions are really broad and some questions are really narrow. I want to optimize our expenses. What does that mean? Tell me which product brings in the greatest revenue. Very different question, right? One has a clearer, definitive answer. Some of our questions are easier to answer than others. Some questions are specific. Some questions are very broad. And if you do want to ask those broad questions, how do you narrow them down? As I said to you with the example I was using earlier, does Seton Hill fulfill the mission it has proposed? Well, that's a very, very broad question. How do I narrow it down to make it answerable? And in this case, we're going to take the next 3 years to answer that question. And that takes me to step 2. Again, I'm going to spend 3 years collecting that data, figuring out, have I asked good questions? Do I have answerable data from that? Can I do things with it? Now, in a project for this course, I'll give you this data. But you need to make sure that this data is organized, is relevant to the questions you are asking, and is clean. What do I mean by clean data? That should be in your notes from last week. Yes, sir. Oh, yeah, I absolutely have to be able to understand it and decipher it. Yes. But I need a little more than that in this specific instance. I'm being very precise in the terminology here. When we talk about data cleaning, say again. I need to make sure there are no redundancies, so I need to do my removing duplicates idea. I need to make sure that I have enough data to clarify what are duplicates and what are separate. I have to have enough unique identifiers and so forth. I need to make sure that that data is uniform if I'm gathering it from several different sources. One of the things that Seton Hill does every semester is we ask all the faculty members to turn in their syllabi to their administrative assistant. They go to the academic affairs office down on 3rd Admin. So I have emailed my syllabus to my administrative assistant. I assume so have all of my fellow other faculty members. But if I go back to that Canvas page, there's a syllabus button. What if my syllabus, instead of being a Word document or a PDF file, is a page on Canvas? How do I collect that and store it? Do I have a reasonable way to do that? I have to be able to get the data into a format where I can access and make sure everybody has uniform format if possible. And that is actually part of organizing that data. Now, maybe you can just drag that whole file and throw it in Excel. Maybe you have to pull from several different databases, and what you really have is a giant pile of SQL data. Maybe you have a different setup from other people. Some are Word documents, some are PDF. I need to make them uniform so I can access them from wherever I am. If you have a MacBook in front of you, it has a native PDF viewer. When you open a file in Finder, every PDF will open in that, and that is platform independent. I can send that PDF from the MacBook to a PC, to a Linux box. It doesn't matter what kind of technology my fellow workers are using. Some formats are universal. And so organizing the data means put it in a place where everybody can get at it. Maybe that's Excel. Maybe that's some shared database. And maybe what we need to do is look at the way it's laid out. I wear these cheaters for a reason, people. I have a lot of trouble reading my own watch without these on. So if I'm going to sit down and try and make something readable, I might pick a larger font size than you. I might blow it up on my computer, but that's up to me. I might look at the way the tables are laid out, bold the headers, color code certain things. It might be beneficial for me to rearrange so that things are readable at a glance. If I need a quick visual, alternating colors in a table, alternating columns, there are all sorts of ways to do that. Headers, boldface, colors, font size, whatever you need, font choice. Okay, what's the one font everybody rags on? Been the joke of the internet for probably a decade now. No? Comic Sans. Why? You have your computers in front of you. Google Comic Sans. Comic, S-A-N-S, Sans. When you look at this font, what do you see? This is a weird looking font. It looks childish. It looks like it was drawn poorly. Why was it laid out this way? What's the purpose of this font? Believe it or not, this font was designed to make it easier to read for people with dyslexia. It was designed deliberately. The letters are uniform. There are no, well, sans means sans serif, without little tails and odd swirls on the letter edges. It's a very plain font, but it's designed deliberately for readability on screens. So making it readable might actually mean font choice. Again, this is in and of itself a problem with readability. My handwriting sucks. I know that. That's why you're getting good copies of the things I'm writing up as well, which were written a little more slowly and a little more carefully. But you also get this video so you can hear me talk about these things. When you choose a font, you need to decide on readability. How many of you can read and write cursive? Not a lot of you. This is an interesting happenstance. If we're so used to typing and receiving our information typed, you get a handwritten letter from somebody, you're in trouble. My great aunt had wonderful penmanship. She also was not a native English speaker. So the majority of her writing sounded out phonetically rather than was spelled correctly. And so quite frequently, my parents would hand me a letter from my great aunt and I'd go, I can't read what Aunt Sarah wrote at all. This word doesn't make any sense. I said, read it out loud to yourself. It's not spelled right. Now, the next step of this is analyzing the data. So really, now we're starting to look at the techniques we've been dealing with in Excel. Sort, filter, average, sum, formulas that we need, however we want to do it. A note. When you filter stuff, filtering omits rows from the things you are seeing. by simply hiding the other rows. I have open the data file from that project, assignment 1-1. It came in as a CSV file. CSV stands for comma separated values. It is not in Excel yet. And that's why if you notice it says cross that, possible data loss. If I only care about one of these products, maybe I only care about shoes, I could go across the top here and say filter. And then I could say, I only want to see shoes. Boop. Notice over on the left, the row numbers are there, right? If I wanted the total revenue from shoes, what would you do? Felix? Of? That second column, right? There's one problem. It goes from row 3 to row 5. Yes? It goes from row 6 to row 11. 11 to 14, there are missing rows here, yes? They're not missing, they're just hidden. So if I were to say, I want to add up the things in column B, and I go from here to the bottom, it's actually going to give me all the rows in there. If I just say add up these things. If I only want to use the visible ones, I need to copy those and put them somewhere else. Or I need to make sure they are all adjacent to one another. How could I make all of these rows adjacent to one another? So I have all the shoes next to each other. Turned off the filter. I could sort by product, and then all the shoes would be grouped together, right? Then if I filtered, I'd only see that section rows and they'd be contiguous. So it's probably useful to you to do more than just a filter if you're trying to look at particular products. So when I'm doing this analysis, I'm thinking about how I'm going to go about selecting the data I want to use. We have not spent all that much time talking about this yet, but what's the line of pictures worth 1,000 words? So if you've got the opportunity, you could create in Excel histograms, bar charts, line charts, graphs, all sorts of other ways to present your information to whomever you're talking to. Maybe they're not statistically oriented people. Maybe your manager is not a mathy person, and they want you to make it easier for them to understand it. So, whatever charts and graphs you can create that will help, that's a worthwhile thing. As an aside, there's a fairly old book from 1954 called How to Lie with Statistics, written by a guy by the name of Darrell Huff. It's available as a PDF file online. There's a copy of it in the library as well. But there's a lot there. Mark Twain said there are 3 kinds of lies. There are lies, there are damn lies, and there are statistics. You can create imagery to manipulate the data you want. So be careful here. Behave ethically. present the data in a fashion that is true to the data, not the answer you're trying to push one way or the other. Maybe your boss wanted to know, can I make more money doing this? And the answer is no. You need to be honest about that. But that is our last step. You can't just point at a number, 13, and walk away. Now, I know in algebra classes, in trig classes, in calculus classes, in most of your math classes, the goal is an answer. Here, I got the answer. In this class, the goal is a justification. Yes, I want you to get answers, but I want you to be able to tell me why those are the answers you came up with. I want you to be able to tell somebody who doesn't see the giant pile of data work you did behind it. You may only get 5 minutes at the front of the boardroom to make your presentation. You have to make those 5 minutes count. You need to be able to tell your audience, here's the number I got, here's what it means, and here's how it's useful to you. So, when I am looking, wrong button. At this assignment here, my goal in this case is that I have the questions I want answered. I have the data provided to me. I'm going to give you the rest of this class period. Let's work on this. We have the time. Let's sit down and work on this here and now so that you can find out if all those techniques we were talking about in Excel and things discussed work. If you click this little down arrow right here, you'll download this CSV. It will automatically open in Excel. My recommendation to you is that you immediately save it as something other than a CSV. So once you have this file downloaded and opened, when you go to save, under File, Save As, you can select the file format. If you want the most current version, all the way up top is the Excel workbook.xlsx. And then save after you've done each step. If you need to, take the original data and make multiple copies of it. So you have one sheet in this workbook. It just shows module 1 large data file. Down here at the bottom, if I right-click on that, I can create a copy of it. And that way I will have the original data saved. And I can have a second one that if I F something up and move stuff around or delete something by mistake, I can go back and restore the original data. Move to end, create a copy, and bing, there's a second sheet for me to work with. Now I can then answer each of the individual questions posed here in our Canvas page. Oop, that's the wrong Canvas page. That's the right Canvas page. And then, once you've got the answers, if you think you've got them all, take the quiz, type in your answers. If not, you have a full week. But I think you should chew on the data set for a while. Questions? It's all yours, people. Let's go. this point, I'm recording. It doesn't make sense for me to just stand here and let that recording go, so I'm gonna pause the actual recording. If somebody has a question, I think you all need to hear it, I'll restart it and answer that question. Download file, let's go to 10. A number of you are coming up with questions about the questions. This is good. Ask yourself, as you answer these, is the data I'm getting, the answer I'm getting, really the question I should have been asked? I'm listening to a bunch of people talk about question 5. Should I be looking for a single product? Should I be looking at average return rates? What should I be looking for? I'm going to answer the question they asked me, but what question do you think would be more appropriate there? Or is the question asked specific enough? This is something you may very well be doing in the future, is thinking about how to ask the question. That's important, not just here, but in general. The question is written correctly as asked. But then when you answer it, is that helping you?